ततः शङ्खाश्च भैर्यश्च प्रणवानकगोमुखाः सहसैवाभ्यहन्यन्त सशब्दस्तु मुलोऽभवत्.
Then all of a sudden, conches, kettle drums, drums, tabors and cow horns were beaten, raising a riotous noise. So once Bhishma blew his conch, all the Kaurava forces joined in and there was a deafening sound. Now, as we saw yesterday, this is an external depiction of what is happening inside. So the mind experiences noise. We are experiencing that every day. Even if it is silent outside, even if you go to the Himalayas, the mind is constantly going on with something. So there's noise inside. What is this noise inside? Where does it come from? Desire, correct. Spot on. Desire. So, unless you deal with the desire, this noise is not going to go. Noise means mental agitation. And how does desire come? What is desire? Desire is nothing but the strategy of the intellect to fulfill an unfulfillment felt within. All of us, from morning to night, from birth to death, experience a sense of unfulfillment, an emptiness, a void, an incompleteness. And with the idea of fulfilling this void, you go out, your thoughts automatically go out into the world to obtain objects or beings in the hope that this unfulfillment will go, to fill this void. These thoughts are called desire. So it is the intellect which strategizes and says, let me go out and get this to fill this void. That's a desire. Now, once you have a desire for a particular object or being, you're stuck with it. Whichever way you go, there are two things that can happen. The desire may be fulfilled, the desire may be unfulfilled. Both ways, you're in agitation. So, what are the modifications of desire? Desire is called kama. Then out of that kama comes krodha. If somebody or something comes and blocks the flow of your thoughts. See, desire is nothing but a flow of thoughts going from you to the object of desire. If there is an interruption, let's say you want to make a lot of money, or a sports person wants to win tennis player wants to win the Australian Open, and a competitor comes in between and wins, you get angry at the obstruction. So, krodha, anger comes when the desire is blocked. When the desire is fulfilled, what happens? Greed, lobha comes into being. And that lobha, greed is fulfilled still more, you get deluded. You are in the top 10 or top 20. Such a guy's feet never touch the ground. He is up there in stratosphere somewhere. Because it goes to your head straight. Delusion. What is the delusion? You believe that you can buy everything with money. Not true. Only thing that you can buy with money is sense objects, material things. You can't buy love with the money. You can't buy knowledge with the money. And you certainly can't buy health with the money. Every patient who is lying in hospital knows that. He may be able to afford a better room or a better doctor, but he can't buy health with the money. So there's precious little that you can do with the money, really. Anyway, so moha, delusion. Then comes, you reach the very top, there will always be someone who has more than you of something. You are envious, jealous of a person who has more. And you are arrogant, mother, towards people who have less than you. All this put together puts you in a state of terrible mental agitation, noise that goes on in the mind. What is the way out? Pick a higher desire. The moment you shift to a higher desire, you're free from the lower desires. Let's say you're stuck with physical desires. In our country, the national obsession is eating. Wherever you go, you see restaurants. So, let's say you have a desire for food. But suddenly, particularly a teenager, I often tell parents, you don't have to go worrying about what they're doing. The moment your teenage daughter or son particularly, because boys have healthy appetites, the moment your teenage son loses his interest in food, you know what? He's fallen in love. You've experienced that, no? See, when I ask philosophical questions, there's silence. The moment I ask these questions, immediately the answer comes. So when you pick up an emotional desire, physical desires go away. Then you pick up an intellectual desire. The same boy who's in love and sending messages and constantly, he's in his own world. Suddenly he decides, I want admission to Harvard University. That poor girl is also dropped. Now he's got an intellectual desire. The highest desire is desire for God, self, Atman. Once you have that desire, all other desires go away. And Sant Tukaram says in a wonderful bhajan, Abhang. Asa bhaya chinta, laza kama krodha, asa bhaya chinta, laza kama krodha, todava sambandha, yancha maza. So here is Tukaram praying to God. When you go to the temple or church or mosque, you go praying, please give me admission to an American university. Please get my daughter married to a nice boy, spiritual boy. Or son married to a spiritual girl, so on and so forth. Here is Tukaram praying for what? He says, do me one favor, O God. Let me forget the body. Body means not just the body, mind and intellect. And let sever the connection between me and desire and its modifications. At least you must entertain that conviction that you can taricaha jiva sukha pave maza. Only then will I be happy. Today, what is your conviction? When I get objects of desire, I'll be happy. Therefore, you're chasing after objects of desire. I want a bigger flat, I want a bigger car, I want a bigger, I don't know what, all big things you want. And the bigger the things you get, your happiness shrinks. You must be convinced that only when I rise above desire will I get happiness. Once you are convinced, then you find a way of getting there. But if that conviction itself is not there, the conviction that desire is my greatest enemy. In the 3rd chapter, he says that. He uses 4 words to mean enemy. The desire, enemy is not out there. You have no enemies outside of you. No mother-in-law is your enemy. No daughter-in-law is your enemy. Nobody in the world can do you harm. Only you can do yourself harm with desires. Desire is the cancer that eats you up from within. It's as deadly, in fact, deadlier than cancer. Cancer at least kills the body. This kills your inner personality. And therefore, you should be on guard before you start entertaining desires. At least be alert. The intellect must be alert. When the thought comes, nice. Or why not? Because you have experiences. You are exposed to all kinds of things. The thought comes. It's not criminal to entertain a thought. If a friend of yours has a Mercedes and gives you a ride in a Mercedes, it is not criminal to think, oh, nice car. But when you say, I want the car, immediately the intellect must come in and say, number one, do you really need a Mercedes? Number two, can you afford it? If the answer to both of this is no, immediately delete that thought from your system. Then you're okay. But if you allow it to take root in your mind, then you're stuck with a desire that you can't fulfill. And that's the problem. So, you are free to entertain desires, but there is no guarantee that those desires will be fulfilled. And even if they are fulfilled, as we've seen here, you are only setting yourself up for a great deal of mental agitation and sorrow, as long as you're riding on that desire. Therefore, rise above it. Pick a higher desire, as high as you can visualize, and work dedicatedly towards it, with your entire being, with your heart and soul. Then, miraculously, you'll find that the desires that you had previously go away, but the objects of desire come to you. Strange but true. If you don't believe me, try it. So, that's what it is. This noise that he's talking about. Sanjay is narrating the entire scenario to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra himself represents the mind. He's blind. He's blind to the evil that his sons are doing. Imagine the most atrocious things were done by his own sons, but his attachment to the sons was such that he wasn't able to let go. Wasn't able to correct them. In his own mind, he didn't even think it was wrong. And that was the whole problem. Next verse.